Hey everybody, my name is Magandeep Singh, Magan for short, and welcome to this monologue on the art of conversation. I'm a sommelier, a contributing editor in the luxury and lifestyle space. I'm also an aspiring triathlete, DJ, saxophonist, and linguist. So when I have free time, I work. But outside of that, I love to converse. My job involves a lot of interactions. So this art of wit and conversation falls upon me to discuss. But before we begin, there are a few things to dissect here. I've used the term art to describe this and not science, which means there is no one correct way to have a conversation. And please don't forget that. The world would be a highly boring place if there was only one right way to have a conversation. Secondly, I felt the need to highlight the wit bit. I didn't need to do it, but I did it just to make sure that people know to address it separately and include it. Remember that knowledge that enters through the brain may not always stay, but things that make you smile leave a much more lasting memory. So, in the end, if I can make you smile, it wouldn't have been all that bad. But let me also, before I begin, address the irony that I'm talking about conversations, which is a multi party endeavor. And yet here I am trying to go it all alone. But that is the format that I've been prescribed, so I shall stick with it. But trust me when I say that stand ups have it much easier when they can just converse with a few people in the front row, and that is fodder enough to get a conversation going. But here I only have the sound of my own voice. And trust me, no matter how objective I try and be, I'll never be a good judge of just how well I'm holding attention through this. Nevertheless, let's start, or let's talk, or more correctly, let's listen to me talk about the art of conversation. And let's start by defining it. Dictionaries aside, a conversation is a verbal exchange that starts somewhere and leads from there. I didn't say how many parties are involved because some smart ass will definitely say that you can have a conversation with yourself and hence that's a party of one. But for me, even that is a two-party entity because one part of you is conversing with another or maybe more. Anyways, so a conversation also has no fixed path, and unless defined by the parties which are conversing, a conversation can take various forms, and many of them are neither consequential nor memorable. And that's fine because even the best of artists have songs that don't make it to the charts. Okay, the B-side tracks, as my generation would call them. So the first thing to do is to identify which conversations are meaningful enough for you to wish to give more of yourself to. This self-investment question is easily answered by taking on another question. How do you stand to gain from it? Because let's face it, you are definitely gaining something. A new job, a promotion, that elusive phone number from a prospective partner, whatever it might be. A gain is what piqued your interest in first place. And now you need to figure out just how much it is worth to you. Should you go in there with your A grade material or maybe save it for another conversation? And in this aspect, a conversation is much like, how you dress up for a social gathering. Remember those? We used to have them many, many moons ago. Should I bring on a show, shine brighter than a Christmas tree, or maybe save that new purchase for a more deserving affair? Now, how do you invest meaningfully? Well, start by listening. 2 ears and one mouth, the ratio says it all. A conversation is not dominated by the volume of your contribution, but sheerly by the quality of it. You don't need to speak a lot, so it helps to listen more and listen intently. In the end, your responses will carry more weight if they're restrained and reserved. It should be a privilege to hear you contribute. Listen also to ascertain whether the people involved in the conversation are approaching this exercise with logic and reason, or they're just letting fantastical ideas fly all around the room. You can't convince or converse with someone who isn't on the same plane of logic as you, or ethics, or beliefs. All have to have some point of intersection for a conversation to flow. Else, it's just an argument, which is also a form of conversation, but nothing you will gain from, especially if one party is bringing scientific reasoning and the other one's arguing about unicorn fights. You can't, and you can't talk about circumnavigating the globe with a flat earther. You can't convince an anti-vaxxer or an anti-mask proponent your plans to eradicate corona. You certainly can't preach about the meat gospel at a vegan table. By the way, the discussions with my family about why I'm not married and how I instead choose to adopt dogs also fall into this category. A multi-planar conversation where neither party will ever convince the other of their ways. Next comes your chance to speak. And here, the first thing I'm particular about, at least with myself, is correct grammar, structure, and courtesies. I'm less finicky if others don't adhere or can't adhere to my level of delivery. They might be too caught up in the emotion of the topic. They might not be talking in their primary language or mother tongue, many other reasons. Either ways, I'll discount it for others, but I won't cut any corners for myself. I'll try and keep it as balanced as I can. Why? So that when I do change my tone to make a stronger point, it'll be noticed and gets the right kind and right amount of attention. And when I say follow syntax, I mean including pauses and breaks, intonations, maybe even your accents, and definitely air quotes. Gestures are good, but don't overdo it. Emote with your hands, even your face. Conduct the crowd like an orchestra. Play them like all different musical instruments, singing to your desired tune. Movement is good if measured, especially behind a dais. Walk up and down a stage, look at everyone, make eye contact, hold their attention, but know when to stand still and stay put in one place. Don't fidget and fumble. Only if you do it for effect, like Hugh Grant does it. For now, use words that you are comfortable with, language that you can flow with, and most importantly, the kind that will resonate with the crowd. Use metaphors, similes, and try and make them contextual, something that fits the situation. Be smart, but not nerdy. Speak softly, speak clearly, know when to speed up, and know when to pause. Because pauses are important. It can make the difference between me inviting my parents, Superman and Batman, to dinner, or me inviting my parents, Superman, and Batman to dinner. In the former, I'm the child of two superheroes, whereas in the second, it's five people having dinner. So clearly by now you can tell what my thoughts are on WhatsApp conversations or Signal or Telegram or whatever have you. Call me old school, but nothing beats voices, faces, and emotions if possible. Always speak on the subject. Keep the digressions short and easy to bring back to the main point. Don't fall prey to fallacies. Don't dawdle. Don't beat around the bush. Basically, just avoid having verbal ADHD and shifting from one flying thought to another. And now comes the important bit, the wit. How much is too much? What is risky? What is funny? Where does it start going dark and politically incorrect? Frankly, I don't know anymore. Each day I seem to offend a new set of people through my columns. So either I'm getting more blasé and callous as I get older, or they sure don't make them like they used to. The best thing to do is to follow a sense of contemporary context. I always listen to others, younger, much younger, speaking on issues where my jokes may go, just to make sure that I will be seen as acceptable in their eyes. To offend someone is to lose the conversation, even if you had all the facts and data in your favor. Worse yet, you might lose their respect and attention and might even get booted from the group entirely. And in case you do have a few jokes which you think are funny, bounce them off a few friends. Friends, the kind who can balance between staying friends with you without judging you for your dark thoughts and yet objectively advise you on what they think is acceptable. It's hard to find such litmus papers to screen all your thoughts, but remember, if you're not entirely sure about what to say, best to leave it out. And I can feel the hypocrisy even as I say this, because my own extreme brand of creative imagination has often got me stuck in tricky situations where I didn't read the room right. Read the room, gauge the age, scan the plan, all different ways of saying that. Don't jump into a conversation without knowing the background of the people already in it. Listen keenly before you plunge. Another thing you can do is quote people, but be sure to avoid those stars of yesteryears who are now being taken down for things they did in the past or said. Not my part to comment on whether we should separate the art and the artist, but all I'm saying is there are so many good, witty, non-controversial quotes out there. Just learn a few and keep them in your kitty. They'll come in really handy. Use them sparingly, use them excessively, but use them. And finally, know your exit cue. This is the most crucial when politics are being discussed and drinks may be involved. Steer clear, but if you do get sucked in, have a very clear exit plan from the start. Remember those party conversations about colleges and careers, marriage and children? They're a vortex of pain and misery. Even I I had family members object when I first cut my hair. And then when I first cut my hair, sorry, but then they were the first people to advise me on what hairstyle I should have and how I'd cut it all wrong. I think finally I'm having the last laugh now. And since you've spoken of exit cues, I think this is mine coming up here right now. Always leave them clamoring for more or wondering why did he or she stop so abruptly. Either ways, this conversation here is over, guys. And thank you so much for listening. And in case you've posted a story or a post on social media during this discourse, please tag me because that's the only way I'll know that I bored you to death in distraction to pick up your phones and not listen to me instead. But thank you. And thank you again for this humbling opportunity. Believe me, I'm completely honest when I say and admit that it's been an absolute displeasure not being able to do this properly, conversing with you on this topic that is so close to my heart. Hope this talk somehow serves you all well. Cheers.